Magnus, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
That entire set had us on the edge of our seats. First, tell us your first thoughts getting out of this with Queen A4 in the end.
Yeah, yeah, that was a pleasant feeling. Apart from that, obviously the first game was a disaster, and in the third game, I was probably more or less lost at some point. So obviously I needed some breaks to get back in the match.
Magnus, we're going to ask you about the critical moments in the game, but also after a very difficult set one, coming into today, what were the adjustments that you made?
Well, first of all, I decided to play a lot more solidly with black. I thought that would be sensible.
Magnus, can you adjust your mic? Because there's a little bit, can't hear you.
Yeah, okay. No, as I said, I tried to play a bit more solidly as white, as black, but I suppose, yeah, I suppose the opening choice in the first game today, and probably also the third, they weren't perfect in the sense that they were pretty difficult to play.
Talking about your opening choices with the black pieces going in for the Berlin, your thoughts on Hikaru's approach when he had the white pieces in the rapid potion?
I thought it was reasonable. So, I mean, he'd gotten great chances twice counterattacking as black. So, why wouldn't he sort of? Yeah, I mean, it's not an obvious choice, but I don't think it's a poor choice. And I think in general he has a match strategy and he knows what he's doing.
Fair enough. And we did see you, especially after the fourth game, that you were quite amused by the second quick draw. What was going on in your mind then?
No, I thought it was just funny that we played the same game twice. But I mean, I'm no stranger to forcing a draw that in that particular situation myself. So it was, I mean, it was not a smile of bemusement. It was rather a smile of amusement.
All right. And yeah, we were in fact talking about this because we saw you have that approach in your match against Karyakin where you were white, and also with Fabi going into the tie breaks and shortening your 12th game. But it's always like in hindsight, right? Because it seemed to work out then for you, but right now it didn't work out for Hikaru. So that's kind of hard to deal with.
I guess so. But you know, people make the decision that they think give them the best chance to win, and then you live with the consequences. You cannot base everything on the result. And so I think obviously it's still going to sting, but I think he felt that was the right decision, and he probably still does.
All right. And Magnus, after the way things went yesterday, you said you made some opening adjustments. There was this whole talk about also perhaps playing positions which were something that Hikaru was doing better, these complex, messy positions. Did you feel that as well when you decided to go for this more solid approach?
No, but the thing is, in the very first white game, I went for something very messy, and he outplayed me on a lot. So I didn't make that big an adjustment. So I think, I mean, I'm trying to play good chess. I just, I don't know. I think you got to be able to do both, play complicated positions and more solid ones. It was just that probably the one I had in the first game was a little bit too difficult to figure out over the board.
Right, and with that, do you have a little more time to just go through some critical moments with Peter and Yas? Because we were just absolutely amazed at the games that happened. If you could just show us some of the lines.
Yeah, sure, I can do that.
Yes, Peter, your
Yeah.
questions about the game?
Well, let me jump in right away. And just first of all, congratulations, Magnus, for tying up the match. I wanted to draw your attention to something that Tanya showed us, which was really remarkable. I'm sure your team is going to show it to you well. Peter, if you could show in the game that Magnus lost that he actually had a perpetual. The position where he played the move e5, e6, and it apparently turned out, Magnus, that that move right here gave away what could have been a draw. Okay, you ready for an alien chess variation?
Yes, bring it on.
Okay, are you ready? Rook c1. Like what? And Peter, take it away from here.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I mean, as I said, usually you need to play a correspondence game in order to understand and appreciate what's happening behind Rook c1. Tanya was the one who checked it with the computer, and she had shown us some brilliant variations. I felt like the most difficult part is that you probably did not even believe anymore that you really have a draw here.
Well, the thing is, if I'd calculated a bit more, I probably would have gone for something like this, because my thinking in playing e6 is that I was going to pick up both the pawns. And if I pick up both the pawns, then, you know, I go f4, f5, and I felt that there were considerable practical chances. But he plays accurately, and he doesn't let me pick up the pawn. But I'm curious to see you continue the line.
After Rook c1, one of the main lines had been b2. My first guess was what happens if black just goes like Rook hc8. That was my human reaction, but Tanya, do you have it?
No, but you just continue queen f3, right?
Yes, probably.
After rook b8, after rook c8, then you go queen f3, and there is no escape. Queen
g4. Yeah.
Queen goes to g4. You go to f5. Whenever you go to last rank, of course, you take the rook.
Exactly.
So there's queen g5, queen d7, king g6. There's queen e6, and queen is not. Sorry, the king is not escaping. You can bring the queen to g7 as well, like king h8, h7, queen d7, queen g7, right? But it doesn't help.
Exactly. That's a perpetual as well. Take us through the line with b2 instead, Peter. Yes.
Yeah, but here after you feel that you have this rook c6 check, you already feel like there should be something. I mean, I'm pretty sure Magnus would have been very pleased with this.
Well, I like the perpetual that you showed us, Tanya, where the rook was checking on d6 and c6 and b6. Yes, this is the one.
Yeah, that was a stunning line, of course.
That was stunning. Yeah.
Yeah, Magnus, we were all disappointed that you didn't even see this much.
No, I mean, as I said, I just had the wrong approach at this point. I thought, as I said, I thought I'm picking up both the pawns, and I should have decent practical chances. Like, to be honest, I wasn't even that upset when he went king f5 instead of taking the draw, because I thought that there would be serious practical chances.
It's funny that you should feel that way, Magnus, because another thing that Tanya surprises with, king f5, queen takes d5, Peter, if you will, for just a moment, queen e7. Tanya has said that the computer's evaluation after queen takes b3, black is up an entire rook, was only +1. So it's interesting that you thought that even though you're down a rook, you had plenty of play for it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, there are serious parallels to my game against Husman. You can have that as a homework for till the next set, because that's there are really a lot of the same themes from against Husman 2008, and I was back in that game. It was the exact same material balance. Queen and rook. White had queen and rook against queen and 2 rooks, and there was just an amazing amount of tricks. And I remember after the game, at the closing ceremony, some of the guys like Gelf and Husman, they showed me a few of the most amazing lines of chess I've ever seen. So check that out. But having that in mind, it's no shock for me that Queen B3 is here white can play on. I just chose the wrong way with E6. Probably E6 is also conceptually wrong because I just want to go F4, F5 without committing the pawn to E6. So that was kind of poor.
All right, and Peter, maybe you have also some questions, thoughts to share with Magnus.
Yeah, well, I mean, okay, I could ask that what was the reason, because we felt like this knight e7 was a very nice flexible move, finally moving away the knight from d5 and vacating the square so any piece can occupy it. And after queen d2, queen d5, it seemed like from your time management that it came as a shock. How did you feel about this moment?
Yeah, yeah, queen d5. I mean, I was literally walking through these lines a minute before the game, and somehow queen d5 I couldn't remember, and I just found it too difficult to figure out. My first thought was that since it was not mentioned in the notes, it's probably not very good. But like to refute it over the board in 10 minutes is pretty hard. And yeah, the line I went for was just a tad unrealistic, unfortunately. I just underestimated his 22nd move, c5. Maybe he has others as well, but this particular line I'd underestimated. I just thought c5, bishop h5, right? I should have something, but in fact the queen is doing a great job from a3, protecting his king. But I mean, as you can see in the game, I still managed to put up a pretty nice fight here. But yeah, that was a bit too ambitious.
And what about game number 3, Magnus? Because something really went wrong in the opening and we were really concerned that you are facing a must-win situation, how you're going to deal with it, and the position got completely out of control. What is your take on that?
No, I mean, I just mixed things up in the opening again, and yeah, if he'd gone h5 on move 15, I mean, I thought that would have been match over.
It was Yasser's move. I mean, Yasser was asking me, what do you do, Peter, against h5? I told me, don't ask me this question.
Yeah, I mean, I thought I was completely lost after this move. So that was, yeah, I definitely messed up before that. But the thing is, like, after bishop g4, d4, I was already feeling a whole lot better. Now it's a real fight, and after he goes bishop e4 takes, already my practical chances are excellent. Since, I mean, there's quite a transformation that's happened in a few moves. Now all my pieces are playing and I have an initiative. I managed finally to give up the d pawn, which I so desperately wanted to get rid of, and it's all good.
All right. And one thing about this last Blitz game, because you know, during the broadcast, when you first time played the move knight f6, Yasser mentioned the move that there is this concept of taking bishop takes c6 and then playing d3, and everything went so quickly I couldn't tell Yasser that, sorry Yasser, it's supposed to be first DC and bishop c5, bishop takes c6. So what did you think about facing bishop takes c6 in the Blitz game?
Yeah, I think he was designed to confuse, but I mean, realistically, the positions are not going to be that different. So if he's playing for some concept instead of concrete lines, I guess it doesn't matter that much. And to be fair, I think he got a somewhat better position at some point anyway, so it wasn't. But I wouldn't necessarily recommend it for classical.
Okay, thank you, Magnus. I will hand it back to Tanya and Yasser.
Magnus, before we let you go and get some rest for tomorrow's match, we did receive a question for you from Hanshut, and he says Karpov stated that playing a set is more tiring than playing one classical game. Do you agree? What is more exhausting, a best of 7 or straight classical days? And because I think this is an important question because we've been discussing mental fatigue a lot at the very end of the tour. What's your take on this?
I think purely in terms of playing for classical games, it's definitely more stressful than one. For rapid games, it's definitely more stressful than one classical. Probably it's a little bit more stressful preparing for classical than rapid, but I would say overall it's more stressful to play these match formats with a lot of games per day.
Do you think the difference is that in a classical format, it's towards the very end that you start questions of stamina and energy come into play, while here every day you're dealing with that?
Yeah, I think that's definitely the case. Both to some extent physical, but mostly like just mental stamina. It's really in these high pressure moments, it's really hard to stand the tension.
All right, well, thank you so much for today, Magnus, and all your insight. And we will see you tomorrow. Congratulations once again on today's win.
Thanks a lot.